When two rangers discovered the lion deep in the African savanna, they didn't understand what was happening at first. The king of beasts stood motionless by a tree, like a frozen statue. His eyes were closed, and disgusting yellow fluid mixed with blood oozed from his neck. When they came closer and saw what trap the animal had fallen into, their hearts clenched with horror. What they discovered shocked both of them so much that they froze in place, unable to believe what they saw. In the early morning, the African grasslands stretched to the horizon, painted gold by the rising sun. The air was filled with the sense of dry grass and dust, characteristic of the beginning of the dry season. Two rangers, a man and a woman, were starting another day of patrol deep in the reserve. Their expedition had already lasted several days, and with each mile they moved further from the base station. Their jeep was equipped with a full emergency kit: first aid supplies, tranquilizers, antiseptics, bandaging materials, and a handsaw for clearing debris. The morning savanna was deceptively calm, but both knew that danger always lurked in this silence. A ranger's work is a calling that requires readiness to risk one's life to save animals. Going deeper into the grasslands, they suddenly noticed a strange sight by an acacia tree. An adult lion stood motionless, as if not noticing the approaching people. They immediately stopped the jeep. There were no signs of a pride around. The female ranger frowned, understanding that such immobility from a predator meant serious trouble. Slowly approaching, they tried to understand what had happened. The picture was horrifying. The lion's neck was trapped in the fork of a thick branch. His body was emaciated, eyes closed, breathing barely detectable. The predator had been unconscious for many hours. An unbearable stench rose from the festering wound, from which thick yellow fluid mixed with blood oozed. The animal's mane was matted and covered with dried blood. Judging by the condition of the wound, the lion had been stuck here at least 3 days ago. Perhaps his pride had long since left, abandoning the wounded member to die. In the wild, a sick animal becomes a burden. They looked at each other. This was a life or death situation. Without hesitation, they developed a rescue plan. The woman conducted an examination. The wound was severely swollen, infection spreading rapidly. The lion had gotten stuck trying to scratch against the tree trunk. In desperation, the animal had fiercely resisted, which only opened the wound further. If they didn't provide help immediately, the lion would die from necrosis and dehydration. But the station was still 2 days' journey away. Without radio communication, they could only rely on themselves. Each minute of delay reduced the chances of survival. The man pulled a saw from the jeep, the only chance to free the lion. The woman prepared a syringe with tranquilizer, calculating the dose for a male weighing about 440 pounds. She injected the drug into the animal's thigh. The lion shuddered. Then his body went limp, and he sank into medicated sleep. The man began carefully sawing the branch that was compressing the king of beasts' neck. The sound of the saw echoed in the silence of the savanna, sweat rolling down his forehead. Each movement required maximum caution to avoid worsening the injury. Finally, the branch cracked and broke, freeing the neck. The woman immediately began treating the wound with antiseptic. The flesh on the neck was deeply torn and inflamed. Yellow pus had spread throughout the entire area. She bandaged the wound with sterile gauze and gave an injection of powerful antibiotics. They transferred the massive lion's body into the jeep and securely tied it with ropes. Before leaving, they placed some dried meat in the cage, hoping the lion would be able to restore his strength. The jeep slowly pulled away, leaving behind the acacia tree that had nearly become a grave for the king of beasts. The lion remained unconscious, only occasionally twitching. The woman constantly checked his condition, dripping water on the predator's lips. For 2 long days, they took turns keeping watch, anxiously listening to each breath of the beast. At night, they pitched tents by the road, placing the cage nearby. The next morning, the lion briefly regained consciousness, drank some water, and ate the meat. This made the rangers breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, the roof of the station appeared. The veterinarians were ready to receive the patient. The lion was brought to the operating room, given deep anesthesia. The doctor removed necrotic tissue, cleaned the wound of pus, stopped the bleeding. Stitches were applied carefully, closing the extensive wound. They set up IVs, administered high doses of antibiotics. The first days were critical. The lion would regain consciousness, then sink back into oblivion. Veterinarians monitored his temperature, pulse, and breathing around the clock, afraid to miss signs of sepsis. Only on the 5th day was he able to lift his head and accept food. The rangers came every day, observing the improvements. After 2 weeks, the lion was able to stand on his paws and take several cautious steps. His movements were stiff, but the worst was behind him. The wound was healing, inflammation subsiding, and the king of beasts was regaining strength day by day. Another 2 weeks later, the lion was moved to a spacious enclosure. His muscles were restoring flexibility after long immobility. The wound had scabbed over, leaving a noticeable scar. When the rangers came to him, the lion would lift his head and look at them. There was no aggression in his gaze. 6 weeks passed before the veterinarians gave the all-clear for his return to nature. The scar remained, but no longer interfered with his movements. It was time to return the king of beasts to where he was found. When the cage door opened, he slowly emerged, cautiously stepping on the grass. He stopped, sniffed the wind, looked around, as if getting to know the territory anew. His muscles tensed, ready for a swift leap if needed. He turned his head and for a moment looked at the rangers who stood in the distance. This gaze lasted several seconds, but there was something more in it than the indifference of a wild beast. Then the lion turned around and confidently walked away, his majestic figure gradually disappearing over the horizon. The rangers were silent, watching as the lion departed to freedom. They knew that now he would continue his life, perhaps find a new pride. The scar would remain forever, but he had survived, and in the wild, that is the ultimate victory. The story of this rescue became a reminder that the mission of nature's protectors is the readiness to give every creature a chance at life, even when the odds are infinitesimally small.